is up, guys? It's the John Gasm coming at you today with a That 70's Show conspiracy theory. Just to warn you guys, this is another it's all in his head theory, but I've gotta say, before you pounce on me for doing one of those, because I realize they get kind of old, this one actually has a decent amount of evidence behind it, and it definitely makes That 70's Show way more enjoyable in my opinion. Also, before I start, I want to say that if you guys start to see sweat dripping down my face, and the reason I'm in a cutoff right now is because, if you didn't watch my Let's Talk episode, I'm back in college. And unfortunately, in my dorm there is no air conditioning, so you guys are going to be seeing me sweat quite a bit over the next month or so. Anyway, if you guys don't want to talk about my sweat, that's totally fine. We're here to talk about That 70's Show. Now, That 70's Show is said to have one of the most inconsistent timelines in TV history. Their timeline seems to be all over the place, and there's a huge lack of attention to detail. So basically, it's kind of like the opposite of How I Met Your Mother in terms of timeline quality. However, according to Reddit user NurseBerry, up until season 3, the timeline is just fine. However, after season 3, it starts to get a little bit iffy, and actually the year stays at 1978 from season 3 until season 6. And during those 3 seasons where time is moving really slowly, they have multiple holiday episode repeats, such as multiple Christmas episodes, Halloween episodes, etc. And the birthdays of the characters really don't make that much sense either. So the year stays at 1978 up until season 6, and then at season 6 it changes to 1979 until the final episode in season 8. So apparently time just works different in the universe that 70's Show takes place in. So that's a possible explanation for it. Time just passes by differently. Or another one is that Eric is in a coma after season 3. In season 4, episode 15, titled Tornado Prom, Eric and his friends all go to the snow prom at their high school. Now, I haven't seen this episode in a long time, so I don't really know what snow prom is. I'm assuming it's just like a big dance in the winter time. But regardless of what the dance actually is, the whole gang decides to go, except Donna, because Eric forgets to pick her up from the radio station. After he realizes he forgot to pick her up, he freaks out and he ventures off to go get her. Only he does this without realizing that there's a tornado warning for his town. Now, there's actually a side story in this episode which is relatively unimportant, where Red and Kitty are hiding in the basement from the tornado. Now, this part of the story isn't really important overall up until the end. At the end, we hear an announcement over the radio that the tornado warning is gone and everyone is safe. Red and Kitty start to celebrate, and at the very end of that announcement, we also hear that there is a teenager in critical condition. According to this theory, that teenager is Eric. Now, if you think about it, there's actually some solid evidence, like I said, to back this up. This isn't just reaching and grabbing for a theory. For example, when Eric is driving, we actually see the tornado directly behind his car, and he doesn't even realize it's there. Also, after he left, none of his friends would have known what happened to him until the storm had died down. Granted, his parents probably would have received a call from the hospital about Eric if he had been injured, but it's very possible that the tornado took the telephone lines down. It was a pretty big tornado, but also the nearest telephone was up in the kitchen and Red and Kitty were in the basement. They may not have heard it. Now, if you're not connecting why Eric being in a coma would have anything to do with a messed up timeline, I'm about to explain it right here. Throughout the majority of the show, Eric is kind of the focus character, and we're basically seeing the world from his perspective. And the show still stays from his perspective when he gets put in a coma. You see, what's really going on is that people are visiting Eric while he's in the hospital and telling him stories of what's been going on in the world around him while he's been unconscious in his coma. So what we're actually seeing is Eric's mind filling in the blanks of what happens in between these stories that his friends are telling him. And if you think about it, the stories that they're telling him might not be in the right order either. They could be visiting him, realize they have nothing to talk about, and then just tell him a story from a couple of weeks ago, not realizing the effect that it would have on his perception of the world from his coma. And if you think about it, maybe the reason the years in the show last so many seasons is because no one's telling him when the year is changing. And because he has no perception of time in his comatose state, the year stays the same until someone lets him know otherwise. And personally, I also think that it makes sense for him to go to Africa in the later seasons and not really be a recurring character anymore. Because after being in a coma for so many years, Eric really isn't a part of anybody's life anymore. People are still visiting him at the hospital and telling him stories, but he isn't really in those stories anymore. And then in the final episode where he comes back from Africa and it's New Year's, it's his mind finally telling him that he has to let go of his family and friends and move on. So it's basically his mind saying, good luck to you all in the 80s, I love you very much, but my time is up. And in the final episode, when the countdown for the New Year starts and the screen goes black, that is the moment where Eric passes away. And that is the That 70's Show theory. Thank you guys for watching. I realize that there's probably some holes in it here and there, just like there is with every good theory. But in my opinion, out of all of the coma theories that are out there, this is one of the best. So thank you to NurseBerry from Reddit for that awesome theory. And for all of you guys watching this on YouTube, I got a couple of favors to ask, including rating, commenting, and subscribing. And in addition to that, if you decide that you want to be a truly dedicated fan, make sure you follow me on Twitter, follow me on Instagram, and like my Facebook fan page. It's on those sites where I update you guys with what's going on with me, the channel, what my plans are for the future. Basically a way to stay in touch with what I'm doing when I'm not uploading a video. And unless I'm forgetting something, that's all I've got for you guys. So thank you for stopping by and stay fresh.